last Saturday and we are all back here. Koncha volume coming pretty echo this is better. So last Saturday of the month and it's time for Bliss Catchers. Another edition. Thank you so much for joining us. Some people are still on the way, but we do have a tradition of starting on time and finishing on time, and I will not break it at any point in time. So here we are with the 44th edition. This is the last edition for this season, and this is the 4th season. It's the 44th edition of Bliss Catchers. I must thank Team Odyssey for once again hosting this event, helping us get this going every month on month. It's been a fascinating journey, and one of the reasons why we host the Bliss Catchers series is we would like audiences, whether they're live audiences or whether they're watching it on YouTube, we'd like them to pause and reflect on life and understand that this series is really a celebration of what it means to be human. If you sit back and think about your life for a little bit, you will realize that being human is our greatest blessing. And yet, we don't apply much thought to this aspect of being human, to this blessing of being created human. Why? Because we are so caught up in our material lives that we miss the opportunity to be happy. And Bliss Catchers is that pit stop where people come, pause and reflect, and hear the stories of those who have gone on to do what they love doing. Osho says that your being happy is not related to what you have or what you don't have. He says your being happy is related to who you are. Until you are that, he says, until you are that, you will not be happy. So there is a great value in being human and celebrating the fact that one important reason why we are created human is to be happy. Which is why Joseph Campbell, the person who inspired us to do this series, the American author and ecologist, he says so beautifully, he says, stay with what makes you happy. Deeply happy. Calmly happy. Stay with that. No matter what others say or what they do. This is the way to follow your bliss, he says. And so the Bliss Catchers is a celebration of this idea of following your bliss, of what you believe in doing, what you love doing. Vani, my soulmate, and I curate this series because this, among other things we do, is part of our life's purpose of inspiring happiness. For over a decade now, we've been going through a very, very traumatic time, 11 years now. We've been going through a bankruptcy. This has meant that for the longest time in these 11 years, we've been without money, without work, and actually, we shouldn't be doing many of the things that we are doing even now. Had we just sat at home and moped and mourned about our fate, we shouldn't be doing many of the things that we're doing. But that phase, that dark, disturbing, traumatic phase, taught Vani and me the value of being happy. We understood that you can be happy despite your circumstances. You can learn the art of being happy. And the art of being happy is the art of being non-worrying, non-frustrated, and non-suffering. We learned that through our lived experience. And once we understood this, we said, hey, let's go out and share this with this world. To all the people that are willing to stop and think about life. And so I wrote my book, Fall Like a Rose Petal. I wrote my book in 2014. I deliver talks on the whole opportunity of this lifetime, which is the opportunity to be happy. We do life coaching. We run a workplace happiness firm called AV Initiatives. And of course, we curate public conversations in public spaces, which are non-commercial, free for anybody who wants to come and benefit from it. And we invite people, like our guests this evening, to come and talk about their lived experiences, their life journeys, so that we can take away important reflections and lessons from them. We call ourselves the Happiness Valas, so that's Vani and me, and that's why and how we do the Bliss Catchers series. This particular edition of Bliss Catchers, which is the 44th edition, is special, which is, it marks, among all the conversations that we curate, and we've been curating this for the last 4 years. We started in January 2015. We do many conversations. Bliss Catchers is one series. Among all these series, today marks the day when our 150th guest is present with us. Our 150th guest. So in the order in which they've appeared and in an alphabetical order, that guest would be Vetri. So Vetri is our 150th guest across all series. Thank you, Vetri, for being here. So 150th guests across Bliss Catchers, the Artist's Soul, the Heart of Happiness Conversations, and the Uncommon Leader 4 series that we curate. So that's what is special, Srinath. That's what I posted on Facebook. This is also special, this edition is also special for another reason. When we started the 2018 season, the 4th year of Bliss Catchers, we had as our Bliss Catcher, one of our guests is a gentleman, a writer, a young gentleman by the name Krishna Trilok. Krishna wrote this beautiful biography, authorized biography of AR. And this gentleman, Krishna Trilok, was my guest in January this year. And we are closing the season. So that was the season opener, and we are closing the season now in November. And I have with me Srinath, who's got an AR connection, which is, he almost sang for Jane Tuya Janina. Okay? He successfully auditioned, but for a reason that we'll soon find out, he chose chocolates over music. And that makes him qualified as a Bliss Catcher for us. So the fact that he made such an important choice about what he loved doing the most. And so this edition is special because it marks a very interesting coincidence of an AR connection at the beginning of the year and an AR connection at the end of the year. And the third unique feature about this evening's edition is that we found both our Bliss Catchers thanks to the newspapers. So for those of you, Vaishali, print is not dead. Okay? We found them in physical newspapers. We didn't see them in online stories, and I'll tell you how we met them both. So both these Bliss Catchers came to us through stories that had been featured in the print media, and that's unique about both of them being with us today. So let me now introduce the two gentlemen to you in the manner in which I know them, which is Srinath. I read about him a couple of times in the papers, but it was in an article, I think in the Hindu, in June this year, that I actually saw a story on Zuka, his chocolate cafe on RK Salai, where the writer talks about Srinath making a Rajnikant in chocolate, right? And an entire ceiling of chocolate butterflies. The first cafe in the world to have a ceiling full of chocolate butterflies. And when the writer asks him why is he doing that, he says, I just love doing it. I just believe that life is so beautiful that it has to be expressed in the form of chocolates, or something like that he said in that article. And that caught my imagination. I shared it with Vani, and we said, hey, we must have Srinath on our show, but let's first go meet him. So we go to the Zuka Cafe in RK Salai, and we meet Srinath, and we hear his fascinating story. He could have been a chef. He did hotel management, He went to set up a restaurant in New Caledonia in a French territory between Australia and New Zealand. So for all you know, he might have been there. He learned French in school, so he could have been a French teacher. He was doing French tuitions as well. He is trained in Carnatic music. He auditioned for films. He, sang several times for Rahman in auditions, and so he could have been in the movies. But above all that, he believes that his life ticks because of chocolates. He believes that he is living his life to make people happy by making them chocolates that will make them happy. That's his obsession with chocolates. So I could feel that obsession in him when we started speaking to him. And so he is here with us. Thank you, Srinath, for joining us. It's wonderful to have you on our show. Vetri. We encountered Vetri's story in a newspaper called DT Next. And in that story, one line, the story generally talks about a theatre actor called Vetri, but one line made a big difference. Vetri is quoted as saying that he started taking a deep interest in folk theatre art forms, Tamil, traditional South Indian folk theatre art forms, because he believes it's his higher purpose to do that. And that's a magnificent word, by the way, purpose. When you realize the purpose of your creation, when you understand why you are who you are, then life changes. Life begins to matter. And so we reached out to Vetri and we said, can we do a coffee with you? And we sat down and had coffee with him. And when we understood his story, it was magnificent. You know, we have had people here who have quit jobs to be actors. Be actors in mainstream cinema, to be actors on television, to be models. We've had Bliss catchers of that kind. But this is the first time that we're featuring a Bliss catcher who said, I find acting, I find TV, I find modeling interesting, but I actually want to champion traditional folk theatre forms. And that made his story so powerful. So he goes to Pondicherry, to Indianastram, and trains there, understands theatre, deep dives into it, finds himself belonging there. And when we spoke to him, he said, I don't know where this is taking me. I don't know where this where it is taking me, this search, but it completes me. I feel fulfilled. And I want to spend the rest of my life doing this. And we thought, hey, that's fascinating. So that's what makes Srinath and Vetri our Bliss Catcher guests for this evening. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. Please come over here and take your seats so we can start the conversation. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Just pick up your mics and turn them on. So. Okay, both are comfortable. Srinath, are you okay? Yeah? It just takes a little bit of settling in, but then it's a comfortable chair. You want to adjust its position or something? Okay. Yeah. So this is wonderful just for everyone who's here, just for you to understand the structure, the format for the evening. I'll be in conversation with Vetri and Srinath for about 55 to 60 minutes from here on. And then we will, hopefully, if we play ball on time, between the three of us, we'll open the floor for questions from you. And then we will close with what is called an interesting quiz segment. Now, there are two quiz segments. I forgot to tell you about the first one, which is somewhere midway through our conversation. I will pause and I will ask you questions about these two gentlemen, questions for which answers you should be knowing if you've heard me so far, and if you will pay attention to this conversation between us. And when you answer a question right, you will get that magnificent mug. It's the Bliss Catchers souvenir mug, and I'm told that coffee tastes great in it. So you will have a great opportunity to have a great mug of coffee tomorrow, and that mug will be your Bliss Catcher mug. Hot chocolate. Hot chocolate too. Any drink. I haven't tried beer though, but I'm sure any drink, because it's the mug that matters, not the drink alone. Okay, the mug adds that additional flavor. But if you have a Zuka hot chocolate, it'll make all the difference, right?
I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, and let's. At the end of the conversation, we'll have another quiz segment where the two gentlemen will ask you questions, which means totally we have 4 mugs going away today. Okay, and it's a very intimate audience, so the mugs are up for grabs. And we will close the program sharp at 8:29 as we always do. Okay, so are we good to start? Patrick, feeling good? Okay. Okay, Srinath, so let's start with you, Srinath, and let me ask you my first question. So Srinath's journey, just so that I summarize and then come to the specific question. After his hotel management, he went to New Caledonia in the in the Australian New Zealand region, and wanted to be part of an Indian restaurant that was being set up there. The project didn't take off for a few reasons. He was rejected visa to be in Australia on more than a couple of occasions. And finally he gets a visa to be at least in Australia and see what he can do with his life. And he gets only a 3-week, 21-day visa. And in that time, Srinath lands himself up in front, very interestingly, so that's part of the question. He lands himself up in front of a chocolate house. And this chocolate house is run by a couple called Daryl and Lee, and magic happens there. Something gets stirred within Srinath. I don't know what it is. I only know these data points. So my first question to you, Srinath, is what about that Daryl and Lee chocolate house excited you? Can you go back in that moment in time? Because you didn't go work there, you didn't necessarily go there and have a hot chocolate every day or something like that, or maybe you did. But something happened to you there that drew you to the whole idea of setting up a chocolate house. So what was it? What was that magic all about?
See, Daryl and Lee, you're right. It's in Sydney that I saw that place. And Daryl and Lee was a place which had everything to do about chocolate. I don't think the brand now still stands there.
So Daryl and Lee are not people, it's a brand?
It's a brand.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's a beautiful brand. That was my first time I would see a chocolate house that had anything and everything to do with chocolates. Okay, imagine you entering into a world of chocolates. Okay, and I saw that you had people walking in, coming out, and I would ask myself, what is it that people are buying chocolates for? Because back here in India, chocolate was restricted to 1 or 2 brands of chocolates. And here you see anything connected with chocolate was available there. That was the first time I saw also a chocolate fountain that set my imagination on fire. And it was interesting. And I would ask myself, why can't I go back to India and start something like this back home?
So that's how it happened.
That's how it happened.
I have a related question there, considering that when we try something in life and we fail at it, as in our results don't come the way we expect them to come, we often get dejected, depressed, right? And you had gone with the specific intention with your hotel management degree to be in a restaurant, and that didn't happen. And you possibly would have wanted a longer visa in Australia, but that didn't happen. So, in a circumstance which is written with failure, which is ridden with failure, how did you get an inspiration? Have you ever thought about how did you get an inspiration saying, hey, let me go back and try setting up a chocolate house in India? So, failure, inspiration, they seem poles apart. How did they meet in your life?
Firstly, I think failure is a beautiful friend that accompanies any journey that you want to explore. And it wasn't easy, but it was beautiful. And coming back, that failure was a sweet failure because I wanted to come back and start this year, and I didn't know anything about chocolate back then. All that I knew was, people back home love chocolates, and I wanted to come back. It didn't depress me of sorts that I would be denied the possibility of starting a restaurant in New Caledonia and the Pacific Islands. But I think everything has, it was predestined probably that, I was looking forward to coming back. And definitely I was there for 5 days continuously. I would spend about 1.5 hours there, sitting across diagonally and just watching people go in and come out. And there was so much that you wanted to bring back and try.
That's an amazing answer. I'll tell you why I'm loving this answer. I can so relate to it. The world will stick on you. Sometimes you will stick on yourself this label of failure because you tried something and things just didn't happen. But he calls it a beautiful experience. And that is what it is. It's an event. And just as success tastes sweet, success in a worldly sense tastes sweet, failure also tastes sweet. It doesn't taste bitter at all. It's our view of it, conditioned by the way society is asking us to view it. It's that view that makes us believe that it's bitter. The other part which he talked about, and he calls it destiny and predestined, I will kind of amplify it a little bit and say, this is how it happens. Everything happens for a reason. If you had not gone to New Caledonia, if the doors had not shut there, if the visa had been a longer visa, maybe something else would have happened. But because the doors shut, because the visa was limited, because you hung out in front of Darrell and Lee, something else happened. And that something has brought you to where you are today, telling this story to us. So I always believe that we should not get stuck with the event as much as we should celebrate its essence. The event might not be of our choice, but the essence is always beautiful. And that's what I pick up from you. Thank you for sharing that. So coming back, so you get an idea, you get an inspiration. Coming back to your journey, when you came back to India, maybe 2002 was it? 2003?
This was 2003.
2003. And then right up to 2009, about 6-7 years, you took time to structure the idea of a chocolate cafe. Okay? And what Zuka is today is a large part of that experience and structure. I have two questions. How did you come back home and tell your family, I don't even know if you were married, if you and Aarti were married at the time. So how did you come back and tell people, hey listen, I have this grand idea and this is what I want to do. How did you kind of sell this idea internally? How did that happen? That's part A. And secondly, I think the whole aspect of setting up a chocolate house, a chocolate cafe, requires skill sets. How did you teach yourself those skill sets? Where did you go? Because you must have done something to bring your technical knowledge in that subject up to a certain stage before you launched. So two questions: convincing the family and skilling yourself.
Okay. See, convincing my family was not very difficult because they always told me, believe in your dreams and follow that. So that opened the doors to go ahead with what you wanted to. The worst that could happen is it may not take off the way you wanted to, but you'll land somewhere there, and you could always pick yourself from there and move ahead. And but I would tell people, imagine a place that sold anything and everything to do with chocolates. Imagine a place that you have anything that comes to your mind. Ask me and I'll probably tell you that we have done that in chocolate. Okay. And that was important to me, and there were times when I was stressed about this, But as the beautiful quote goes, you know, like when desserts are spelled backwards, it's stressed. So I never wanted to spell it that way. I would say that, you know, let's keep it desserts, and chocolate desserts are beautiful that way. And I did go back to France for my training, where I was trained directly under Master Chocolatiers. And that gave me a much broader perspective about what you could do with chocolate. And the limited idea that I was exposed to about the utilization of chocolates back in India, that gave me a set of confidence to march ahead in the journey of chocolates. So I brought these back and kept working at it. And I would keep on saying that, you know, the worst that could happen is you fail. And I was ready to fail. And I'm still ready. But, you know, you know that you could restrict it somewhere. And, you know, I would love to say this. There was a time when I would tell people, you know, all that I did were mistakes. It was only much later, after 2009, that people call these mistakes as chocolates. So I think mistakes are beautiful.
Mistakes are beautiful. I'm ready to fail. That's my takeaway there. I think if you are ready to fail, then you have rid yourself of the fear of failure. At the core of it all lies this understanding that there is neither something called success nor is anything called failure. Everything is an experience. And he says, beautiful, mistakes are beautiful too, right? And that's what life is all about. When I look back at my life, and somebody asked me even the other day, 3 days ago at a coffee shop, saying, do you have any regrets? I said, I have one regret, that the bankruptcy that hit us in 2007, if it had hit us 10 years, 15 years ahead, we would have saved that much more time in our life, understanding the true meaning of life, that it is beautiful, it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to fall down, it's in the whole joy of living a full life that the meaning of life is contained. So that's what I'm picking up. Thank you, Srinath, that's awesome. Srinath, can you just move your chair a little bit that side so I can see you better? Yeah, that's fine, thank you. Is he coming in the frame? And the frame is going to affect him. So let's go on to Vetri's story now. Let's start off Vetri's story. Srinath, I have several more questions for you, but I'm going to pause you for a while and go to Vetri. Vetri, let's go to your story. See, as I told you in the introduction, a person who wants to be an actor, a star, be in the entertainment, the glamorous entertainment business, there are many. There are very few who say, I like what I'm doing, but I'd like to do something more meaningful. Vetri is one of them. So my first question to you is, உங்களுக்குள்ள அந்த தேடல் எப்போ ஆரம்பிச்சது? You know, I think somewhere in your early 20s, you had already started doing a show on Vijay TV, Kana Kanum Kalangal, correct? You were a model for Uninor, the money was good, you were getting enough to look after yourself. For anybody at that age, that's a lot of, you know, feel-good factor. But எதுக்காக அந்த தேடல் வந்தது உங்களுக்குள்ள? அந்த உணர்ச்சி எப்படி இருந்தது? What were you searching for? Why did you feel incomplete?
ஆக்சுவலாக காலேஜ் பண்ணும்போது விஜய் டிவியில் வந்து காலேஜ் முடித்த உடனே விஜய் டிவியில் கனாகானம் கடந்தன் ஆக்ட் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சிட்டேன். இந்த ப்ராசஸ் எப்படி இருக்குன்னா, என் கூட சேர்ந்து ஆல்மோஸ்ட் வந்து 21 ஆக்டர்ஸ் இருப்பாங்க. அவங்க எல்லாமே ஃப்ரெஷர்ஸு. அண்ட் அது வந்து அகெயின் லைக் காலேஜ் மாதிரி தான். ஸோ காலையில் எழுந்துச்சு திருப்பி ஒரு லஞ்ச் பிரேக் வரும், சாப்பிடுவோம். திருப்பி ஈவினிங் விடுவாங்க, ஈவினிங் வந்துட்ட பிறகு திருப்பி டப்பிங் கூப்பிட்டு போவாங்க, டப்பிங் பேசுவோம். அகெயின் போய் படுத்துங்கிறதுக்கு 21 பேர்னா 21 பேரும் டப்பிங் முடிக்கிறதுக்கு ஒரு குறைஞ்சது ஒரு 3 hours 4 hours ஆகிடும். அப்புறம் போய் படுத்து தூங்கிட்டு திருப்பி காலையில் எழுந்தோன்னா திருப்பி அகெயின் இது வந்து ஒரு ரொட்டீன் மாதிரி போயிட்டே இருந்துச்சு. ஸோ சம்பாதிச்சிட்டு இருந்தோம், ஃபேம் வந்துட்டு இருந்துச்சு. இந்த விஷயங்கள்லாம் போயிட்டே இருக்கும்போது எனக்கு வந்து என்னென்னா, ஓகே நம்ம ஆக்ட் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சிட்டோம், நமக்கு பிடிச்ச விஷயமா ஆக்டிங் இருக்குது, சம்பாதிக்கவும் ஆரம்பிச்சிட்டோம். ஓகே சரி, உங்களுக்கு உண்டான ஃபேமும் கிடைக்க ஆரம்பிச்சிருச்சு ஆஸ் அன் ஆக்டரா. ஓகே, ஆனால் இந்த விஷயத்தை தாண்டி இதுக்குன்ட்டு உண்டான ஏதாவது ஒரு ட்ரைனிங்காகவோ இல்லை இதுக்குன்னு உண்டான ஸ்டடீஸாகவோ ஏதாவது பண்ணியா அப்படின்ற மாதிரி கேட்டால் இல்லை. சரி, அப்போ இதை பண்ணுறதுக்கு, இதை பேலன்ஸ் பண்ணுறதுக்கு எதாவது பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒர்க் ஷாப்ஸு, அதுக்கப்புறம் வேறு ஒரு சில விஷயங்கள்லாம் அந்த தேடல் ஆரம்பிச்சது. அண்ட் தேடிக்கிட்டு இருக்கும்போது அகெயின் லைக் இந்த ஷூட்டு இதுவும் போயிட்டே இருந்துச்சு. ஃபைனலாக ஓகே இதை ட்ராவல் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சேன். அப்புறம் எப்படி ட்ராவல் பண்ணால் இந்த பர்டிகுலர் விஜய் டிவி அப்படின்ற இதுலையோ இல்லை ஆக்டிங் ஆன் ஸ்க்ரீன்ஸ் அப்படின்ற ஒரு பாயிண்ட்டை குவிட் பண்ணிவிட்டு ட்ராவல் பண்ண ஆரம்பித்தேன்.
So you stop doing that?
குவிட் பண்ணிவிட்டு ட்ராவல் பண்ண ஆரம்பித்தேன். ஸோ அந்த ட்ராவலில் அப்போ தான் பாண்டிச்சேரி பாண்டிச்சேரின்ட்டு டார்கெட் பண்ணி போல வேறு ஒரு சில இடங்களுக்கு போகும்போது பாண்டிச்சேரியில் ஒர்க் ஷாப்ஸ் நடந்துருக்கு. இந்த மாதிரி கேள்விப்படும்போது அங்கே தான் இந்தியன் ஆஸ்ட்ரம் அப்படின்ற ஒரு தியேட்டர்
I'll come back. On the pause point, Indian Ostrom is a very important part of his life. Everything changes here. So I just want to pick up, reflect on what Vetri is sharing. Everything was a routine. There was money, there was fame, but it was getting into a routine pattern. Haven't we felt that sometimes our lives fall into a rut, into a routine, into a monotony? That's what he's referring to. And he decides that he doesn't want to do this forever. So he says, let me pause it, let me stop it, let me draw a line and just start traveling. Now, you must have read this, you must have heard people say, and I'm just repeating this. I think when you step out of a zone that you are getting to be comfortable with, you're making progress. You make huge progress, because real discovery lies in stepping out of that zone. Now, what zone are we talking about? What is this comfort zone? This comfort zone is the predictability zone, the money zone, the knowledge that there is security in it. Rumi, my favorite poet, says, forget safety, live where you fear to live. Forget safety, live where you fear to live. Joseph Campbell says, again beautifully, he says, the cave that you fear to enter holds the treasure. The cave that you fear to enter holds the treasure. So he literally stepped out of that comfort zone and peeped into the cave that possibly held the treasure. Okay, that's the quick takeaway there. Now tell us, so what happened? You landed in Pondicherry, and tell us about Indian Ostrom. And then my specific question to you is, what about Pondicherry, what about Indian Ostrom attracted you? அதில் என்ன மாற்றம் உங்களுக்குள்ள நீங்கள் எதிர்பார்த்துட்டு போனீங்களா, இல்லை அந்த மாற்றம் உங்களை ஒரு சுனாமி மாதிரி அடிச்சுட்டு போச்சு?
இல்லை, மேக்ஸிமம் நான் பிளாங்காகவே இருந்துருவேன். அப்போ எந்த எக்ஸ்பெக்டேஷனும் இல்லாமல் ஒரு இடத்துக்கு போகிறது தான் ப்ராசஸாகவே இருக்கும். ஸோ இந்தியன் ஆஸ்ட்ரம் அப்படின்றது அந்த தியேட்டர் அப்படின்றது இங்கே இந்தியாவை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் சினிமா தியேட்டர் அப்படின்ற ஒரு இது இருக்கும். ஆனால் தியேட்டர் அப்படின்ற இன்னொரு இதுக்கு வேர் தே டூ பிளேஸ், ஸ்டேஜ் பிளே இருக்கும், அப்புறம் ட்ரைனிங் இருக்கும், ஆர்ட் ஃபார்ம்ஸ்க்கு உண்டான ட்ரைனிங்ஸ் இருக்கும். அங்கே முழுக்க ஆர்ட் அண்ட் கல்ச்சரை எக்ஸ்ப்ளோர் பண்ணக்கூடிய ஒரு இடமா தான் இருந்துச்சு. அண்ட் இந்தியன் ஆஸ்ட்ரம் உள்ளே போன உடனே ஒர்க் ஷாப்காக தான் போனேன். அது எந்தவித கமர்ஷியல் பெனிஃபிட்டையும் எதிர்பார்க்காத ஒரு இடம். நீங்கள் உங்களுக்கு என்ன ஆக்டர், அதாவது உங்களுக்கு ஆக்டிங்லாம் அவங்க சொல்லித்தர மாட்டாங்க. நீங்கள் உள்ளே போனீங்கன்னா, நீங்கள் வேலை செஞ்சீங்கன்னா உங்களுக்கு வர்றது அங்கே வர ஆரம்பிக்கும். அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு இடம் தான் இருக்கும். ஸோ அங்கே போன உடனேலாம் சேர்த்துக்க மாட்டாங்க. நம்ம போயிட்டு அங்கே நீங்கள் ஒவ்வொரு ஸ்டெப் பை ஸ்டெப்பாக ஒரு இடமா நீங்கள் க்ராஸ் பண்ணிக்கிட்டே வரணும். ஃபஸ்ட்டு நீங்கள் போன உடனே வெளியே தியேட்டருக்கு வெளியே உள்ள இடங்கள்ல வேலை செய்ய உங்களுக்கு வந்து வேலை செய்யறதுக்கு வாய்ப்பு கிடைக்கும். ரெண்டாவது வந்து பேக் ஸ்டேஜ் ஆர்டிஸ்டாக நடிக்கிறதுக்கு வாய்ப்பு கிடைக்கும். மூணாவது தான் ஆன் ஸ்டேஜ் ஆக்டராக வந்து உங்களை அக்செப்ட் பண்ணுவாங்க. அண்ட் தியேட்டர் அப்படிங்கும்போது அங்கே எல்லா வேலைகளும் நம்ம செய்யணும். செட்டில் இருந்து நீங்கள் பெயிண்ட் அடிக்கிறதுலேருந்து, எலக்ட்ரிக்கல் ஒர்க்லேருந்து, சமைக்கிறதுலேருந்து, டாய்லெட் க்ளீன் பண்ணுறதுலேருந்து, மார்க்கெட்டுக்கு போய் வாங்கிட்டு வர்றதுலேருந்து, ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி வந்து எல்லா வேலைகளும் நீங்கள் செய்யணும். இது ஆஸ் அன் ஆக்டராக அது வந்து ஒரு டியூட்டி. ஸோ இதை நீங்கள் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்றது.
இது உங்களுடைய டிவி அனுபவத்தில் அது இருக்குல்லையே. அப்போ நீங்கள் உங்களுக்குள்ள அந்த கேள்வி வரலையா, எதுக்கு இதெல்லாம் செய்ய சொல்கிறாங்க அப்படின்னு?
எனக்கு வந்து அது ரொம்ப பிடிச்சிருந்துச்சு. ஏன்னா நான் வந்து நல்ல அதாவது அந்த ஏஜுக்கு ஒரு நல்ல சம்பாத்தியம், அந்த வயசுக்கு ஒரு நல்ல ஒரு ஆக்டராக ஒரு நல்ல ஃபேம். இதை பிரேக் பண்ணிவிட்டு அங்கே போகும்போது என்னோட மாத சம்பளம் வந்து 1500 ஸோ ஒரு மாதம் இந்தியன் ஹாஸ்பிட்டலில் 1500 சம்பளத்தில் வந்து போய் நான் வேலை பார்க்க ஆரம்பிக்கிறேன்.
எனக்கு உங்களுக்கு பிடிச்சது?
எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்சிருந்துச்சு.
நீங்கள் அதை வெறுக்கலை? அந்த 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 கடினமான உழைப்பை நீங்கள் வெறுக்கலை?
இல்லை, அந்த மாதிரி ஓகே. ஸோ அது எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்சிருந்துச்சு. அண்ட் வந்து இது வந்து ஒரு அது ஆக்சுவல் தியேட்டர் இதை தாண்டி அங்கே வந்து லைஃப் வந்து எனக்கு நிறைய கற்றுக் கொடுத்துச்சு. எனக்கு நிறைய பொறுமையை வர வச்சுது. அந்த ப்ராசஸ் எனக்கு ரொம்ப பிடிச்சிருந்துச்சு.
அது நீங்களா தேடி எம்ப்ரேஸ் பண்ணிக்கிட்ட ஒரு ப்ராசஸ். யாரும் உங்களை அந்த போக சொல்லலை?
யாரும் என்ன போக சொல்லலை. மேபி என்ன ஏதோ ஒன்று தள்ளுச்சுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன்.
That's a fantastic point. என்ன ஏதோ ஒன்று தள்ளிச்சு. Was he drawn or was he pushed into it? That is the beauty of life. That question can never be answered. It is your ability, your willingness to embrace something new. Many of us are scared of that, of the newness of things. We like a predictable environment. We like predictable settings. We like to know the people that we are working with. But he said, I wanted to break the pattern of the fame, the money, the success journey that I was riding and go and embrace a new adventure. அது அவரை தள்ளி விட்டுச்சுங்கிறாரு. அது இழுத்துதா இவரை தள்ளித்துதாங்கிறது கேள்வி கிடையாது. அந்த நேரத்தில் அவர் அங்கே போய் சேர்ந்தார். And that moment you began to enjoy that experience. So you have to clean the place, you have to do the back end work, and you have to also be part of the show going forward. எத்தனை வருஷம் இருந்தீங்க?
நான் 2.5 வருஷம்.
2.5 வருஷம் உங்களை நீங்கள் அந்த பிகினிங் ஃபேஸ் ஆஃப் த 2.5 எண்ட் ஆஃப் 2.5 பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நீங்கள் do you think you transformed personally?
Of course, yes. And இந்த 2.5 years எப்படின்னா இப்போது நம்ம ஸ்டார்டிங்கில் என்ன வேலை செய்கிறோமோ, என்னதான் நீங்கள் ப்ரொமோட் ஆகி ஆன் ஸ்டேஜுக்கு போனாலும் அந்த வேலைகள் வந்து நீங்கள் செஞ்சுட்டே தான் இருக்கணும்.
ஓகே.
அது வந்து நிற்காது. இப்போ நீங்கள் ஆக்டர் ஆகிட்டீங்கன்னா நீங்கள் வந்து மார்க்கெட் போகிறதையோ இல்லை வந்து நீங்கள் க்ளீன் பண்ணுறதையோ நீங்கள் நிப்பாட்ட முடியாது. அது வந்து எல்லாருமே அது ஒரு ஃபேமிலியாக நாங்கள் எல்லா வேலையும் நாங்கள் தான் செய்வோம்.
So I think what he's emphasizing is the work culture, the work ethic in Indian Strong was democratic. There was a nobility of all work being equal, all people being equal, irrespective of what level they played in terms of the actual production, but they were all treated equally. That's what you liked most about it, and it transformed you as a person. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to come back to Vetri's story, but I'm seeing the time here. It's time for those beautiful mugs to come to you. Okay, so we're going to have the midway quiz segment, and then I'll continue with Srinath, and then come back to Vetri in a little bit. But first, the questions. So, are you all ready for the questions? Okay, anybody can answer. This is a. If you followed my introduction of Srinath carefully, and if you love Indian music, film music, you should be able to answer it. Okay, I think I'll let the family also answer. Because this is a general Bollywood trivia, so anybody can answer. So connect Srinath here. Connect him with a 1973 film called Aa Gale Lag Ja. 1973 film. I can keep giving clues to keep increasing the probability of your getting the right answer. You want the clues?
Yes.
Okay. It was a Manmohan Desai directed film in which Shashi Kapoor and Sharmila Tagore are picturized in this particular song. See, so many clues I'm giving.
Shot in Paris.
Not shot in Paris. Not shot in Paris. Okay, Kishore Kumar and Shushma Shrestha were the playback singers. Sahir Ludhianvi's lyrics and R.D. Burman's music. No, you can't get it? Think of the other song. Yes, what is the song?
तेरा मुझसे है पहले का नाता
Yes, sing it, yeah.
ही नहीं दिल
And-
लुभाता कोई जाने तू.
That is right, and that is what. So Vaishali, I'm sorry I can't give it to you, but I give it to the person
No,
who.
she deserves it. She actually deserves it.
Do we have an extra mark?
No,
Okay, that's okay.
I didn't
Come
want it.
forward.
No, you should take this. You didn't.
Both of you can come forward. Joint winners. Okay. So yes, the song is तेरा मुझसे था पहले का नाता कोई जाने तू या जाने ना. Yeah, do you have an extra one?
Yes.
So that's Rishika and that's Vaishali. Rishika, right?
Yes.
That's Vaishali.
How do you connect that song with this actually?
The last line of that song became the title of the film Jaane Tu Ya Jaane Na, 2008 film, directed by Abbas Tyrewala, music by A.R. Rahman, for which he successfully auditioned. That's the connection. Okay, and he chose not to sing, not to pursue a career in singing, and come to chocolates. That's the connection. Thank you for asking that question. That's interesting Bollywood trivia. That's another life of me, which I love films a lot, and I'm a good consumer of a lot of films. Vetri, the question on Vetri. This should be a sitter for anybody here. Come on, guys, on the buzzer. Don't make me give too many clues. Connect Vetri to both Vijay Kant and Vijay.
Vijay Kant. See, in Badri.
Tell.
Vijay
Both
TV.
Riaz and I acted.
Wrong,
Vijay
wrong.
TV.
The first time when he started his career, he started with Vijay TV.
No. That's a good connection, but that's not the answer I'm looking for. Okay?
Vetri Maran or Padam. Vetri Maran was his name.
No? You are somewhere close. Ramesh is somewhere close.
Vijay and
Vijay and Vijay Kant both.
They had Vetri as their character names in movies.
No, you're all giving the answer out, but you're not coming to the final answer. You're skimming. You're skimming. We have to close this quickly. We lose time.
He started his career in Vijay TV.
No, that's the
More
answer. But
clues.
that's not the answer.
More clues.
More clues. It was the debut film of Vijay.
I have no idea.
Vetri.
Yes, Dr. Chari, please come forward. Yes.
Yeah, Vetri.
The name of the film is Vetri. The name of the film is Vetri. And here, Vetri gives away. So Vetri is a 1984 film starring Vijay Kant. And the film was directed by S.A. Chandrasekhar and featured Talapati Vijay. Ilaya Talapati, is it? Is that what he's called? Ilaya Talapati Vijay. As a child artist. He was only 10 years old at that time. That's
Vijay Kant?
Huh?
What was the Vijay Kant?
Vijay Kant is timeless, as we all know.
No, was he in the film?
Yeah, he was in the film. He was the hero of the film. I thought you were referring to how old Vijay Kant would have been. Okay, fantastic. Let's go back to the conversation. Thank you for participating. 2 more mugs to be given away at the end of the conversation. So stay tuned. Yes, Srinath. Let me now come to you, Srinath, and let's go back to a conversation. At that time, that's 2003 to 2009, you had also an alternate career option, which was music. And I think when met at your cafe, we talked a little bit about this when you felt that although many things were being pursued on the music side, you were trained in Carnatic music, you were auditioning, but nothing concrete was coming. And at the same time, even though you went and trained with master chocolatiers, you were trying to set up the business, you were structuring it in different ways. Again, things were not exactly moving very motivation. Would you talk to your parents? Would you talk to Aarti? Would you pray? What would you do to say things will work out, let me hang in there? How did you pursue to stay on the path? How did you stay on the path?
See, I took inspiration from people around me. It could be my family, it could be friends, and I was a big fan of A.R. Rahman himself. And people in general, it's when you think you're giving up is when opportunities present itself. So I knew it was somewhere around when people would tell me, listen, why don't you get back to the hotels and start working? I would say, I'm not going to be happy doing that. Give me one more year. So I started bargaining with people because I knew for a fact that this so-called success may be delayed, but definitely not denied. So I was at it at that time. So, there were times when, people would come to my mother's flower shop. It is known as Arcadia in Pondicherry. People would come there and say, I used to have chocolates made and displayed there. And say, I like this chocolate, but it is not like what we get back in France, back in Swiss, back from abroad. And they would say, I don't like the wrapper you use. I don't like the aftertaste that I got in it. So in a day, if I got 10 customers, 9 out of 10 would tell me things like this. And the 10th one would always be sweet. Would come and say, I like your chocolates. It's just that maybe you need to just look into this particular aspect. The way they phrased it probably gave me that motivation to look at it for one more day. Looking back at it, I don't know how I crossed those years, which were interesting. And now when I look back at it, it inspires me to keep continuing.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for so graphically describing it. You see, we often get asked this question too, Vani and me. I was sitting with my cousin a few weeks ago, and she said, so I said, I don't know. So she asked me the same question, how do you keep yourself going? And you keep yourself going one day at a time. Don't think too far ahead into the future. The key point he said is, are you happy doing what you're doing? You may not be happy with the circumstances. You may not be happy with the environment. You may not be happy with people sometimes. But you have to be happy with the journey of trying. And that is what makes it meaningful. That's what we have seen. So if 9 out of 10 customers tell you that things are not at that level, that gives you an opportunity to raise the bar for yourself. And if the 10th one says, come on, move it to the, you've done well, now take it to the next level, then that gives you a reason to hang it there. That's how you do it. I call it the car headlight principle. On a dark street, in the dead of the night, you get into the car and you start driving. Can you see your destination? You can't. You only see as far as the headlight can show you. And so you drive until that point, by which time the vision is improved to the next point. And that's really how it works. One day at a time, one step at a time. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that perspective. Then it so happens that in your journey, you have to take an important decision. On the one side, your chocolate house is beginning to take shape. Your years, almost a decade of work has gone in there, in terms of thought, to actualization, to setting it up, structuring it, and all of that. And on the other side, you are possibly going to be singing for AR. And you are through that process of auditioning with him. How did you make the choice that, okay, despite all my training, it's not music, but it's chocolates? how difficult was it? And did you at any time, let's say that night after you took that decision, you said, okay, I'm not going to do music. Did you ever feel like going back and changing that decision?
See, firstly, I think they were wanting to become a playback singer. I was maybe one among so many people who had tried, but it was always a race, and it was important for me to give it a try and then leave it to destiny. When I eventually got my break, it was on the 8th of May 2008. Okay, and I went to meet Mr. Rahman just casually for a chat, and that's when he asked, "Hey, would you want to do the chorus? Why don't you audition?" And I was not ready for it, because in my mind I was already into another boat that was taking me into the chocolate world. Okay. So when this happened, I didn't know, but you were waiting for this opportunity. When it came, I was grateful that it came, because I knew that tomorrow I didn't want to have this regret that I didn't do this. So I am extremely grateful to him that he offered me a chance to audition. And I had auditioned only once with him. And during the audition, we took a break, and I went up to him and he asked me, "So how do you like this experience?" And I said, I think I want to get back to chocolates, because I had already started, planning what I wanted to do.
You mean the answer just came like that?
It came. It just came like that.
You didn't have to say, I'll go home, think and come back.
Because somewhere, I had already invested in this dream a little more than that.
Okay.
And he was very appreciative of that. He said, "Follow your dreams."
He said that?
He said that.
That's
And interestingly, me coming to Chennai with Zuka, there is a connect with AI. So that was, he had visited the outlet much later. That was in 2015 March. And he saw the cafe in our Pondicherry outlet. And he said, "When are you going to be in Chennai?" I said, "Call me another." And he said, 2 days from here, why don't you visit me at my college, KN Conservatory? So when I visited him, he made sure that we were given a tour of the college. And he said, "I'd like a cafe here. Why don't you bring your cafe here?" So I thought he wanted a cafe that was going to suit his ideas of wanting something there. But it didn't strike me that he wanted Zuka inside his premises. So when that came in, it took me back to the early 2000s of getting a break. So getting this break with AR was in the form of a chocolate cafe inside his campus, which is there at the moment. That was my first cafe inside Chennai, which is a private cafe.
For the KN conservators.
And that I'm happy that it started with this offering me a chance to coming in. There were also a lot of others who wanted me to be here, but I don't know, it's like this, you want to take one step ahead and then take two. So
right. So what you say, I'm able to relate it to what Campbell said, Joseph Campbell. He says, "Follow your bliss and doors will open. And people will connect in your zone of bliss and give you perspective, give you a hand, show you direction." So in a way, you connect with A.R. Rahman for the music part of it. He asks you an important question: what do you like about this experience? What do you want to do? And that gives you an opportunity to say that I want to be in chocolates, and he says, "Go follow your bliss." And then he comes back a few years later in another form in your life and helps you get into Chennai. Now that's the power of following your bliss. You cannot take this experience and say this will work exactly this way for everyone. There is no formula. There is only magic. There is no logic. There is only magic, and that magic can only be understood through individual experiences. So thank you for sharing that anecdote with us. Thank you so much. I'll come back to Zuka and the journey, but we'll go to Vetri now. Vetri, I want to ask you, many people say that the folk theatre art forms are dying, right? And many people generally talk about it in a very sad way. You were young and you could have been in mainstream entertainment in a bigger way. Why did you choose to, take up the cause of the folk theatre forms? What அந்த ஸ்பேஸில் அந்த ஃபோக் தியேட்டர் ஸ்பேஸ் வந்து உங்களுடைய தாகத்தை உங்களுடைய தேடலை வந்து சால்வ் பண்ணிடுச்சா? அது வந்து did it quench your thirst? That is my question. How did it quench your thirst if it did?
இந்தியன் ஹாஸ்டலில் வந்து ஒரு குறிப்பிட்ட பிளேஸ் முடிச்சுட்டு ஒரு 2 வருஷம் இந்தியன் ஹாஸ்டல் கூட ட்ராவல் பண்ணிட்டதுக்கு அகெயின் எனக்கு அங்கேருந்து பாரிஸ் போகிறதுக்கு வாய்ப்பு கிடைச்சிது. அதாவது அங்கே போய் நாங்கள் வந்து ப்ளே போடுறதுக்கு. ஸோ பாரிஸில் வந்து தியேட்டர் டி சொலில் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு தியேட்டர் இருக்குது. அவங்க வந்து முழுக்க தியேட்டரை மட்டும் ஃபோக்கஸ் பண்ணுற ஒரு இடம். ஸோ அங்கே தியேட்டர் எப்படி இருக்கும்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, இந்த வேர்ல்டு வார் அப்போல்லாம் வந்து அணுகுண்டு செய்கிற இடத்த வந்து கவர்மெண்ட் வந்து தியேட்டருக்காக இப்போ கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. ஸோ அந்த இடத்துல ஒரு தியேட்டர் ஸ்பேஸ் அப்படின்றது பாரிஸை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் ரொம்ப பெரிய இடம். வந்து எல்லாத்துக்குமே தனித்தனி செக்மெண்ட் இருக்கும். இப்போ நீங்கள் செட்டு செய்யணும்னா அதுக்கே வந்து இந்த அளவுக்கு ஒரு பெரிய இடம் இருக்கும். ஸோ தியேட்டருக்கு இதோட 2 மடங்கு பெரிய இடம் இருக்கும். ஸோ அந்த தியேட்டர் டைரக்டர் அரியான் முஷ்கின்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு அம்மா இருக்காங்க. அவங்க வந்து இங்கே பாண்டிச்சேரி வரும்போது அவங்க என்ன சொல்கிறாங்கன்னா, இந்த மாதிரி வந்து உங்களோட ஆர்ட் ஃபார்ம்ஸில் இருந்தால் நாங்கள் எடுத்துகிட்டு நிறைய விஷயங்கள் பண்ணிக்கிட்டு இருக்கோம். அதாவது க்ளவுன்னு சொல்லப்படுற ஒரு கேரக்டர் வந்து தெருக்கூத்தில் கட்டியக்காரன்னு சொல்லப்படுற ஒரு இதில் இருந்தால் நாங்கள் எடுத்துருக்கோம். நாங்கள் வந்து இன்றைக்கி போயிட்டு நாங்கள் வேறு மாதிரி பண்ணி ரொம்ப பாப்புலராகவும் ரொம்ப இந்த பர்டிகுலர் ஆர்ட் ஃபார்ம்ஸ் வந்து ரொம்ப கொண்டாடிக்கிட்டு இருக்கோம். ஆனால் நீங்கள் வந்து உங்களுக்கு தெருக்கூத்து அப்படின்னு சொல்லப்படுற ஒரு ரொம்ப நீங்கள் பாதுகாக்க வேண்டிய ஒரு கலை இருக்குது. அந்த கலையை வந்து நீங்கள் வந்து கொஞ்சம் கண்ணை முழிச்சு பாருங்க அப்படின்ற மாதிரி சொல்கிறாங்க. அவங்க சொல்கிறாங்க. அவங்க வந்து அரௌண்ட் ஒரு 75+ இருப்பாங்க. அவங்க சொல்லும்போது இந்த ஒரு பர்டிகுலர் வேர்டு வந்து அப்போ வந்து நம்ம என்ன பண்ணிக்கிட்டு இருக்கோம் அப்படின்ற ஒரு சில விஷயங்களை வந்து யோசிக்க வச்சுது. ஸோ நான் பாரிஸ் போயிட்டு இங்கே சென்னை, அதாவது இந்தியன் ஹாஸ்டல்லேருந்து ஃபுல் டைம் ஆக்டராக அந்த வேலையை விட்டுட்டு சென்னை வரேன். சென்னை வந்துட்டு சென்னையில் என்ன பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்னும் போது சரி வேறு ஏதாவது தியேட்டர் ட்ரூப் கூட ஒர்க் பண்ணலாமா அப்படின்ற மாதிரி யோசிக்கிறேன். யோசிக்கும் போது இல்லை சரி நம்மளே ஒரு தியேட்டர் ட்ரூப் ஒன்று க்ரியேட் பண்ணுவோம். க்ரியேட் பண்ணிவிட்டு சரி ஃபஸ்ட்டு ப்ளே எதை பேஸ் பண்ணி பண்ணலாம் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி யோசிக்கும் போது தெருக்கூத்து பேஸ் பண்ணி பண்ணுவோம் ஃபஸ்ட்டு ப்ளேவை. ஏன்னா ஒரு ஆக்டராக நீ இந்த மாதிரி வந்து ஒரு ட்ராவல் போயிட்டு வந்துருங்க. ஸோ இந்த விஷயங்கள்லாம் கற்றுக்கிட்டு இருக்க. ஸோ தெருக்கூத்து பேஸ் பண்ணி பண்ணால் அதுக்கு நீ செய்கிற ஒரு குருதட்சணையாவோ இல்லை முதல் பிள்ளையாக சொல்லி வந்து தெருக்கூத்தில் நம்ம ஒரு பிள்ளையை வந்து ஆரம்பிப்போம் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி ஆரம்பித்தது தான் இந்த அழகுன்னு சொல்லப்படுற ஒரு நாடகம்.
அது வந்து இந்த தியேட்டர் அக்குங்கிற
அந்த குரூப்புக்கு கீழே
நீங்கள் சரி.
ஆமாம். ஸோ க்ரியேட் பண்ணியாச்சு. க்ரியேட் பண்ணிவிட்டு தெருக்கூத்து அப்படின்னு சொல்லும்போது இங்கே சென்னையில் வந்து இதோட இது வந்து கொஞ்சம் ஓரளவுக்கு ரொம்ப கம்மியாக தான் இருக்குது. ஆனால் ஊர் சைடில் என்ன சொல்கிறாங்கன்னா, அப்போ ஒரு 10 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி எந்த அளவில் பண்ணாங்களோ எங்களை மாதிரி யங்ஸ்டர்ஸ் வந்து அங்கே அந்த கிராமங்களில் இருப்பாங்க இல்லையா, அவங்க வந்து இப்போ ஒரு கிராமத்தில் ஒரு 5 குரூப் இருக்குன்னா அது வந்து ஜாஸ்தியாக தான் இருக்குது. இப்போ வந்து ஒரு 7 குரூப்பாக இருக்குது. ஸோ தெருக்கூத்து வந்து கிராமங்களில் வந்து தொடர்ந்து பண்ணிக்கிட்டு தான் இருக்காங்க. இங்கே வந்து இப்போ இங்கே இருக்க ஸ்கூல் பசங்க, அப்புறம் ஸ்கூல் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ், காலேஜ் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ்க்கு இவங்களுக்கெல்லாம் வந்து தெருக்கூத்து பற்றி நம்ம வந்து ஒரு அவேர்னஸ் இது மாதிரி பண்ணலாம். ஸோ அதை நம்ம தெருக்கூத்து ஃபார்மேட்டில் பண்ணுவோம். அதை பிளேயில் போடும்போது இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்காக இருக்கும். தெருக்கூத்தோட மொழியை வந்து கொஞ்சம் லைட்டாக மாற்றி இன்றைக்கி காலகட்டத்தில் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ்க்கு எப்படி புரியுமோ, என்னென்னலாம் வச்சா ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் வந்து ரொம்ப விரும்பி பார்ப்பாங்களோ அந்த மாதிரி விஷயங்கள்லாம் உள்ள வைக்கிறோம். ஸோ இப்போ ஷேடோ தியேட்டர் அப்படின்னும் போது வந்து அதுவுமே வந்து இப்போது ரொம்ப கம்மியாயிடுச்சு. ஸோ அதெல்லாம் உள்ளே வைக்கிறோம். இந்த மாதிரி ரொம்ப கம்மியானப்பட்ட கலைகளை வந்து உள்ளே வைக்கிறோம். ஷேடோ தியேட்டர் உள்ளே வச்சோம். ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி ஷேடோ தியேட்டர்லாம் வைக்கும்போது ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் வந்து ரொம்ப ஆர்வமாக வைப்பாங்க இது என்ன அப்படின்றது. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி விஷயங்கள் தான் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம்.
ஸோ நீங்கள் வந்து உங்களுடைய எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸில் நீங்கள் அந்த பாரிஸ் போனதில் அந்த அம்மா அந்த கேட்ட கேள்வியில் தான் உங்களுடைய ஹோல் ஃபோக்கஸ் வந்து இந்த ட்ரெடிஷ்னல் தியேட்டர் ஆர்ட் ஃபார்ம்ஸ் பக்கம் வந்தது, ரைட்? அண்ட் நீங்கள் வந்து அதில் செய்ய துணிஞ்சது இறங்கினதுனால இந்த தியேட்டர் குரூப் ஃபார்ம் ஆச்சு, தியேட்டர் ஆர்ட்க்கு. அண்ட் அவங்க கூட நீங்கள் அடவுங்கிற ஃபர்ஸ்ட் பிளே நீங்கள் பண்ணியிருக்கீங்க. இதில் உங்களுக்கு முழுவதும் சந்தோஷமும் திருப்தியும் கிடைக்குதா? இல்லை,
இதில் கண்டிப்பாக வந்து இல்லை, எனக்கு வந்து சந்தோஷமும் திருப்தியும் ரொம்ப அதிக அளவில் தான் கிடைக்குது. இப்போது இந்த பர்டிகுலர் நாடகம் வந்து நாங்கள் ஒரு 14 ஷோ போட்டிருக்கோம். இந்த 14 ஷோவும் வெவ்வேறு மக்களுக்கும் வெவ்வேறு இடங்களில் போய் போட்டிருக்கோம். சின்ன பசங்களுக்கு போடும்போது அவங்களோட கமெண்ட்ஸ் வந்து டைரெக்டாக எங்களுக்கு எப்படி கிடைக்குது. ஸ்டேஜ் தியேட்டரை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் நமக்கு உள்ள ஒரு பெரிய ப்ளஸ் பாயிண்ட் என்னென்னா ஆடியன்ஸோட ரெஸ்பான்ஸ் வந்து உடனே பார்த்துடலாம். அவங்க தலையை குனிகிறாங்களா, இல்லை மூஞ்சை திருப்புறாங்களா, இல்லை எழுந்து போகிறாங்களா, இல்லை வந்து உங்களை வந்து ப்ளே முடிச்சுட்டு போது கட்டி பிடிக்கிறாங்களா, இல்லை வந்து அழுகுறாங்களா, இவ்வளோ விஷயம் வந்து நீங்கள் டைரெக்டாக இது பண்ணுறதுனால உங்களுக்கு உடனே அந்த கிரெடிட்ஸ் கிடைக்கிறதுனால உங்களை மூவ் பண்ண வச்சு போய்கிட்டே இருக்கும் அது. அண்ட் இந்த பர்டிகுலர் நாடகம் வந்து நாங்கள் ஆனைக்கட்டின்னு சொல்லப்படுற ஒரு இடத்துல வந்து போடுறோம். அங்கே வந்து 7 மணிக்கு மேலே வந்து யானை வந்துடும் ஊருக்குள்ளே. 10 வருஷம் முன்னாடி தான் வந்து செல்ஃபோனே கரண்ட்டே 10-15 வருஷம் முன்னாடி தான் அவங்க கரண்ட்டே வந்து அவங்க ஊரில் வந்திருக்கு. 7 மணிக்கு மேலே வந்து இந்த யானை வர பயம் வந்து பல வருஷமாக அவங்களுக்கு இருந்துக்கிட்டே இருக்குது. நாங்கள் ப்ளே போடுறதுக்கு ஒரு 3 நாள் முன்னாடி ஒரு யானை வந்து ஒருத்தனை அடித்து சாவடிச்சிட்டு இருக்கு. ஸோ எவ்வளோ பயத்தில் இருக்காங்க மக்கள். அந்த இடத்துல நாங்கள் நாடகத்தை போடுறோம். 7 மணிக்கு தான் நாடகத்தை ஆரம்பிக்கிறோம், 8 மணிக்கு முடிக்கிறோம். இந்த 8 மணிக்கு நாடகம் முடியும் போது இந்த மக்களோட எல்லாமே ட்ரைபல் மக்கள், அவங்களோட ரெஸ்பான்ஸ் வந்து எப்படி இருக்குன்னா, நிறைய பேர் அழுகுறாங்க, ஆக்டர்ஸ் காலில் வந்து விழுந்துட்டாங்க. எனக்கு இதை பார்க்கும்போது அப்போ நான் என்னன்னா இப்போ இந்த நாடகம் பண்ணும்போது ஒரு பெரிய மைனஸ் என்னன்னா, இப்போ எங்களுக்கு இதெல்லாம் பண்ணணுன்னு ரொம்ப பெரிய ஆசை. ஆனால் இதுக்கு ஃபண்டு அப்படின்ற விஷயம் சுத்தமாக இருக்காது. இப்போ ஏன்னா இப்போ இங்கேருந்து இன்னொரு இடத்துக்கு போகிறோன்னா ட்ராவல் மட்டுமே ஒரு குறிப்பிட்ட அமௌண்ட் ஆகும். ஒரு 10 பேரை நான் கூப்பிட்டு போகணும், அவங்களுக்கு சாப்பாடு வாங்கி தரணும், தங்குறதுக்கு இடத்த வந்து அவங்களுக்கு அரேஞ்ச் பண்ணி தரணும். ஸோ தங்குறதுக்கு இடம் எப்படி இருக்கும்னா மேக்ஸிமம் ஏதாவது ஒரு கம்யூனிட்டி சென்டர்லேயோ இல்லை வந்து இதர் சத்திரங்கள்லையோ இல்லை யாராவது வீட்டில் வந்து பிரித்து, இப்போ இவங்க வீட்டில் ஒரு 3 பேர் தங்கிக்கோங்க, அவங்க வீட்டில் ஒரு 4 பேர் தங்கிக்கோங்க, இந்த மாதிரி வந்து நிறைய பேர் எங்களுக்கு கொடுப்பாங்க. ஆனால் சாப்பாடு அப்படின்ற விஷயம் வந்து 3 வேளைக்கு அது ரொம்ப பெரிய கஷ்டமாக தான் இருக்கும். அண்ட் இப்போ எனக்கு அப்படின்னா நான் வந்து எப்படி ஓரளவுக்கு சமாளிச்சிடலாம். இப்போ என்னை நம்பி ஒரு 10 பேர் இருக்காங்க. அந்த நம்பிக்கை அப்படின்ற வார்த்தை வந்து ரொம்ப பெரிய விஷயம் அது. ஸோ எப்படி என்ன பண்ண போகிறோம் அந்த மாதிரி தான் இருக்கும். ஏன்னா இப்போ ஒரு ப்ரொடக்ஷன் நாங்கள் ஒரு இடத்துக்கு போயிட்டு நாடகத்தை போட்டு வரோம் அப்படின்னா, இப்போ அந்த ட்ரைபல் மக்கள்கிட்ட நீங்கள் பெருசாக அவங்கக்கிட்ட நாங்கள் வந்து காசு, நீங்கள் எங்களுக்கு காசு கொடுங்க நாங்கள் போடுறோம், அந்த மாதிரி இதுலேயும் பண்ண மாட்டோம். அந்த ட்ரைபல் மக்கள்கிட்ட இருந்து ஆனால் எங்களுக்கு வந்து காசு வந்துச்சு. எப்படி வந்துச்சுன்னா, அவங்க பழைய ஃபார்மேட்டில் இருக்காங்க. அது ரொம்ப நல்ல ஹெல்த்தியான விஷயம். ஒரு நடிகர் நடிச்சுட்டே இருக்கும்போது வந்து உள்ளே வந்து ஒரு 100 ரூபா குத்திட்டு போகிறாங்க, ஒரு 10 ரூபா குத்திட்டு போகிறாங்க. ஸோ இதெல்லாம் எனக்கு பார்க்கணும் இதெல்லாம். ஆனால் என்ன விஷயம்னா, இப்போ இந்த பிளே எங்கள் ஆக்டர்ஸ் வந்து அதெல்லாம் பழக்கமே இல்லை அந்த இது. ஏன்னா மாடர்ன் தியேட்டர், மாடர்ன் ஆர்டிஸ்ட்டு. இப்போ ஒரு ஆக்டர் உள்ளே போகும்போது அவனோட ஆக்டரோட ஒரு கேரக்டர் உள்ளே போகும்போது அந்த ஆக்டரோட ரியாக்ஷன் எப்படி இருக்கும்னு தெரியாது. இவர் உள்ளே போகும்போது நான் பிடிச்சி உட்காரப்பேன், சார் உட்காருங்க அப்படின்பேன். அண்ட் நான் வந்து முன்னாடி லைட் பண்ணிட்டு இருப்பேன். ஸோ நான் அடிக்கடி எழுஞ்சிக்க வேண்டிய வேலைகள் இருந்துச்சு. பின்னாடி ஒரு பாட்டி ஒன்று உட்காந்துட்டு என்னை திட்டுது அசிங்கமா, ஏய் உட்கார்றா கீழே, அடிக்கடி எழுச்சிக்கிட்டு இருக்க உட்கார்றா அப்படின்ட்டு. எனக்கு வந்து சரி ஓகே, அவங்க ரொம்ப ஆர்வமாக பார்க்குறாங்க.
ஸோ அதுதான் உங்களுடைய மகிழ்ச்சியே. அதுதான் the fact that there is a lot of audience engagement and அவங்களுக்கு நீங்க சந்தோஷம் கொடுத்துருக்கீங்க. They are showing that happiness in this manner. So what I am picking up is from his experience of staging these productions in using the folk theatre art form in audiences, for audiences across, there are a lot of challenges which are not necessarily so dramatic in commercial entertainment, okay? In modern entertainment, there are a lot of challenges, and yet he enjoys the process. You could have felt that energy in him, in the sandosham, when he is narrating that. He's living that moment of joy, and that's what I wanted to capture. That's why I let you speak, because I knew you were beginning to get into your zone of bliss. உங்க கண்ணிலே அது தெரிஞ்சது, and அது நடிப்பு இல்ல, அது நிஜம். That much I can say. I want to go to Srinath for a quick one about the business side of things. Many people who come here, who watch our videos, who connect with Vani and me, often ask me this question. Ramesh is an old timer. You know this question comes very often from people. Can following your bliss really be profitable? Is it something that we can make money out of? And many people have this wrong notion that if you follow your bliss, if you do what you love doing, you have to sacrifice the economic side of your life. Whereas a business such as Zuka gives us phenomenal perspective in terms of doing what you love, structuring it right, can always make a profitable business plan. So what has been your experience? How do you deal with the highs and lows of being an entrepreneur and yet be happy with the process?
Okay. Firstly, with everyone here, how many people know Zuka? Okay. Okay. I'm motivated to answer that. Okay. So, back in 2006, when I went for my training to a place in northeast of France, okay, அந்த இடத்துல -6 degrees and chocolates வந்து எனக்கு எல்லாமே புதுசாங்க. So அங்கே போகும்போது one of the chefs, one of the main chocolatiers asked me, how much of chocolate do you use back in India? How much do you procure per annum? And I was bowled out because இந்த மாதிரி யாரும் கேட்டதே கிடையாது. And எனக்கு வந்து ஃபஸ்ட்டு நான் வந்து வாங்கும்போது 20 கிலோ வாங்கும்போது நான் இவ்வளோ சாக்லேட் வாங்கியிருக்கேன்ற ஒரு it was my first time. And 2006 I had touched 400 kgs. Let me tell you, I was ashamed after that question was put to me, because the master chocolatier asked me 400 kgs, and he had a very quizzical look on his face, but he didn't ask me anything further. So I went on asking him, how much do you procure per year? And why I felt ashamed was, he said, for 4 of my outlets I procure 11,000 kgs of chocolate. So you see 400 and you see 11,000 kgs. And I felt ashamed. The way people used to look at India for its chocolate was very difficult for me to digest. So when I said 400 kgs, people started, I knew, behind my back, I always was very conscious. Maybe they're mocking at how it is back home. But, that set things back on track. When I came back, I was still small about procurements. Until last year, for 2 of my outlets, we have touched 8,000 kgs of chocolates.
Wow.
So if that answers whether it is economically beneficial, following a passion, you have to be patient, and it is. Okay? And we are franchising from January 2019, and I know that it's a goal that I've set myself for. By 2021, we'll be looking at 15,000 plus, and that is something I think it is achievable, because we are tying up with also chocolate groups in Belgium and France. More than anything, எனக்கு என்ன அதுனா, ஏன் ஒரு இந்தியன் சாக்லேட் கம்பெனி வந்து ஒரு இன்டர்நேஷனல் ஸ்டாண்டர்ட்ஸ் எதையும் கொடுக்கக்கூடாதா? Just because we are Indian, does it mean that we can't compete with someone which I always ask this question, why can't we? There was a time when it used to be that, bring me foreign chocolates. Now I look at it as, why can't we go back and bring foreign companies itself here? Why can't we go and invest, ask them to be a part of this journey here? And before even we could ask, there are people back there looking at opportunities for the sheer population that India now has, who are very sweet people, they love chocolates. So it's changing the way it looks.
And so the big point for me is that if you're passionate and you're prudent, you can make it work, and you're patient. So it's not to look at the bliss side of things only from the passion point of view, but also to bring in business prudence and be anchored in patience. I think that's what makes it work. In addition to that, you today I have another question there, which is today you have 3 outlets and you have several employees working. Sometimes entrepreneurship can be a huge challenge when you have to, if it's just you, then jumping out of bed and saying, yeah, I love my life as a chocolate entrepreneur, chocolatier, I'm doing all of this. How do you keep your team engaged? How big is your team? And what's your central message to your team about the work that you do?
See, 2008, we were 3 of us who started. 2009, it became, I think, 11. 2018, we are close to 40 of us.
Wow.
In both places put together.
Pondicherry and Chennai.
Pondicherry
3
and
outlets.
Yes. It's important to let you know that those who have joined us in this journey still are a part of this family. Okay. They're still here. One of them is there seated, Mr. Vipul. He's also a Zuka person. So it's been more like we all have one dream and we are taking it in that same aspect. We sit together, we have question and answers. I make it a point to ask them, tell me what is it that can work, and tell me boldly what will not work. And I would like to explore what doesn't work to make it work. And I think that is something that has been a driving force for all of us.
So, what is the happiness that you exude in terms of being the person who's following your bliss? Do you believe that your team is injected with it as well? Do you talk to them often about the higher purpose of being the business that you are?
They've been with you for all these years. Isn't that an answer? I look at it that way. And it is important that, I started small and they came along when I was still small, and I look at it still that way. There's plenty to do, and everyone matters. And it is important to, carry this journey in a very ethical manner for us. And, about the ethics, I'll come back to it later. But it's been a motivating journey. I think everyone in the team is very motivated about it.
One of the things that I notice about Srinath's life is the way he takes his team along. I think you have a daily morning briefing, which I think anybody would do, but he calls them the torchbearers of happiness. You call your team the torchbearers of happiness.
The brand ambassadors, torchbearers of happiness.
Of happiness. So the central idea of Zuka is a little higher than chocolates itself. It's about spreading happiness.
It's
right?
called, see, our slogan is happiness is chocolate shaped.
Happiness is?
Chocolate shaped.
Chocolate shaped.
Isn't it?
That's beautiful.
So, everyone likes chocolate. And when you give a chocolate, people are happy. So why can't chocolate be the form of happiness? Among a lot of other things that give you happiness too.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing them with us. So let's go to Vetri. Almost the last question for you, Vetri, before we go to the audience quickly for a Q&A session. To do what you're doing, theatre akku nadakano, adula productions nadakano, unguludiya small effort. He kept telling me repeatedly, so I'd like to clarify. He said, Avis, I'm not an expert in folk theatre forms, traditional folk theatre forms. I'm only a student. So I'm not even asking you as an expert opinion. I'm saying in a small way you're doing something to uphold this art form. How do you fund yourself? You have to look after yourself. You have to drive a production. You believe in it. How do you manage these two? உங்களுக்கு சில நேரங்கள்ல தோன்றது இல்லையா, நான் வந்து விஜய் டிவியில் இருக்கிறது இவ்வளோ சம்பாதிச்சிருக்கலாமே அப்படின்னு ஒரு ரிஃப்ளெக்டிவ் தாட், வருத்தத்துடன் வர தாட் இல்லை, ரிஃப்ளெக்டிவ் தாட் வந்ததுன்னா எப்படி ஹேண்டில் பண்ணுறீங்க?
ரொம்ப பெரிய கொஸ்டின் கஷ்டம் தான் சார். என்னன்னா சேனல் டு தியேட்டர், அகெயின் தியேட்டர் வந்து பாண்டி, அகெயின் சென்னை. இப்போ சென்னையில் வந்து தியேட்டர் பண்ணிட்டு மெயின் ஸ்ட்ரீமும் ட்ரை பண்ணிட்டு அட் தி சேம் டைம் வந்து மீடியாவில் என்னென்ன வேலைகள்லாம் இருக்கோ எல்லா வேலைகளுக்கு உண்டான முயற்சி பண்ணிக்கிட்டு அட் தி சேம் டைம் ஒரு ட்ரூப் இருக்குது, அந்த ட்ரூப்பையும் வந்து ஃபார்வர்டில் எடுத்துகிட்டு போனோம். அது இதை தாண்டி என்னோட செல்ஃபாக எனக்கு உண்டான செலவுகள் அப்படின்ற ஒரு பெரிய ஒரு இதுதான் இது. என்ன பண்ணுறதுன்னு தெரியல, யோசிச்சுட்டு தான் இருக்கேன். சரி பார்ட் டைம் வேலையை எங்கேயா போகலாம் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி யோசித்தேன். சரி பார்ட் டைம் வேலையை எங்கெல்லாம் போகலாம் அப்படிங்கும்போது இப்போ தெரிஞ்ச ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் கிட்ட வந்து நீ உங்களோட கடையில் எதாவது பார்ட் டைமாக கொடுறா, எனக்கு ஒரு 5லேருந்து 10 வரைக்கும் வேலை பார்க்குறேன்டா அப்படின்னா சிரிக்கிறாங்களே நீ கூட சும்மா சொல்ல வர அந்த மாதிரி இதை சொல்கிறாங்க. அப்படி இல்லைன்னா வந்து என்னை கொஞ்சம் ஒரு ஃபேஸ் ஐடென்டிட்டிலாம் இருக்கிறதுனால வந்து அதை அக்செப்டும் பண்ணிக்க மாட்டுறாங்க. எனக்கு ஒரு என்னோட பேசிக் லைஃப்பை ஓட்டுறதுக்கு ஒரு அமௌண்ட் ஆஃப் மணி தேவை. அந்த காசு வர்றதுக்கு உண்டான முயற்சிகளும் நிறைய பண்ணிட்டு தான் இருக்கேன். ட்ரை பண்ணிட்டு தான் இருக்கேன் சார். அது வந்து என்னைக்கு நடக்கும்ன்றது தெரியாது.
அது நடக்கலனாலும் அந்த கேள்வியை நான் கேட்டதுக்கு காரணம் இருக்கு. ஏன்னா ஒரு விதத்துல நாங்க 2 பேர் கூடி, வாணியும் நானும் கூடி இதை நிறைய அனுபவிச்சிருக்கோம். We have gone and asked people for jobs. We have gone and tried to do things in the line of our bliss without making compromises, and sometimes things don't come stuck. நம்ம பண்ற முயற்சி வந்து 2 + 2 = 4 நம்ம எதிர்பார்க்குற ஒரு ரிசல்ட் வராது. சில அது வராதிக்கு இருக்கும்போது ஒரு அற்புதம் நடக்குது. அவர் சொன்ன மாதிரி அடுத்த நாளைக்குள்ள சர்வைவலுக்காக உள்ள இன்ஸ்பிரேஷனோ தேவையோ பூர்த்தியாகும். It will come. So you survive that day and you move on and you make another effort. So I'm glad you said how you are feeling about it, which is I don't know how it is happening, I don't know how it will happen, it is tough. And that is the core message here. Bliss does not mean that things are going to be sorted out and you're going to have a ride with no speed breakers, a ride with no potholes. That doesn't mean, that's not what bliss means. Following your bliss means you're feeling happy within you despite the circumstances, despite the environment. And ultimately, what is the point in living life if you're not feeling happy? Circumstances will always have a different take of and toll of you. But this part, if you can secure this part, how you're feeling within, it makes a big difference. Would you agree? Would you agree, Sheena? Totally? Right? Great. So we have had a good conversation. I'll do a quick wrap in a little bit, but can we go to the audience, any of you, to ask any question related to their bliss journeys to Srinath or to Vetri, and I'll time it, keep it very sharp questions. Ati, your question first, yeah.
Did you ever think of them coming to us for entrepreneurship, for making the Indian sweets? That idea?
See,
with the chocolate element in it.
I'll tell you something, it's very interesting you ask me this. I have a very good friend in France who I would call him and say, how many of you have heard of this place called Champs-Élysées in Paris? Okay, Champs-Élysées is a very upmarket area where you have, it's like Nungambakkam or Kadar Nawaz Khan Road into 100 times in Paris. Okay, so I would ask my friend, hey, find me a place there for 200 square feet. Among all the other chocolatiers, can we have one chocolate shop there and we'll call it Zuka from India there? Okay, I'm coming to that. So he would ask me, why would you want to do that when they're all professional and master chocolatiers? I would say, among all these 10 people, can you name one guy who could infuse probably our gajar ka halwa or payasam or this milk kova with chocolates there? Now Indian ingredients are a big plus in the Western markets. You have Lindt coming up with red chili with dark chocolate. Why can't we have so many other things back there branded as from India? I take a lot of pride. Thank you for asking.
We pride ourselves. I've gone abroad. It's like, how many people say, I brought a foreigner here to make him do, so admire us. Why should we admire them? Let them admire us.
Good point. Good point. I think we'll take that offline. The question has been answered. Next question, please. Do we have a question?
Mr. Vetri?
Yeah, Ramesh. I'll come back to you.
No, it's okay.
Well,
Well, there is a element of a temperature difference between France and Chennai, which is the tropical. How do you manage the temperature aspect with regard to your talk? Because by the time I open the wrapper, it all sticks in my hand. So that element, have you done some research by which it stays tough?
See, when I was in France for my training, the chefs would tell me, how is it making chocolate back there? I would ask that same question in a different manner to them. I say, when I look at your atelier de production, that is your production area, you see a lot of machines that is used for melting chocolate. I think we are blessed to have that element here without investing in those machines. So, we have that here. So it wasn't really a challenge.
That's a technical question. You can still take it, Dr. Chari, your question.
Vetri, உங்களுக்கு எந்த மாதிரி சப்ஜெக்ட் நீங்க தெருக்கூத்து பண்றீங்க? எப்படி any idea can you give us? எந்த மாதிரி சப்ஜெக்ட்ல? தெருக்கூத்துல எந்த மாதிரி சப்ஜெக்ட் எல்லாம் பண்றீங்க? எப்படி இதெல்லாம் மேனேஜ் பண்றீங்க?
Okay, just a minute and quickly wrap it up in a minute.
இப்போ நாங்க பண்ற இது என்ன அப்படின்றத பார்த்தீங்கன்னா வந்து ஒரு தெருக்கூத்து ஆர்டிஸ்டோட ஸ்ட்ரகிள். அதாவது அவங்க வந்து அவங்களுக்கு தேவையானது இன்னைக்கு கூத்து கட்டணும், அதை பார்க்கறதுக்கு மக்கள் இருக்கணும், கூட்டமாக இருக்கணும்னு அவசியம் இல்லை. ஒரே ஒருத்தர் குட்டி பையன் இருந்தாலும் அவனுக்காக நான் கட்டுறேன், ஆனால் அதை பார்க்கறதுக்கு யாராவது ஒருத்தராச்சும் இருக்கணும் அப்படின்றது தான். இந்த டோட்டல் பிளே நாங்கள் பண்ணுற பிளேவே அவரோட கனவு தான். ஒரு கனவுல எல்லாருமே இருக்கிறதா நினச்சிட்டு ஒரு கூத்து கட்டிக்கிட்டு இருப்பாரு. நாடகம் முடிஞ்சிட்டு பிறகு பார்த்தா யாருமே இருக்க மாட்டாங்க, அவர் மட்டும்தான் இருப்பார். இதுதான் நாங்கள் பண்ணுற திருப்பியோட தீம்.
So I think the play kind of personifies or magnifies the pain, the poignancy of the art form itself, the phase that it is going through, and the attempts to revive it. Yeah, I think it points in that direction. Sir, your question. We take that as the last question.
This you have gone to that New Zealand or whatever. That was for to run a hotel and not to do with chocolate.
It was I graduated doing hotel management. So on the Pogamboda, it was to start an Indian restaurant in New Caledonia, because there was a friend who wanted to start the Indian restaurant. So I went there for that purpose. It was not chocolate.
It wasn't chocolate, but it led him to chocolates. That door shutting on him led him to chocolates. Osho says this very beautifully. I'm just reminded of that. Tattungal thirakappadum appdinu solli. Okay, and this is not with any religious connotation. Osho says that Tattungal thirakappadum is for a door which is locked, but life's door is always open. Edukku tattra thorandukittu ulla po. So life's door never closes on us. If this one closes, it's actually pointing to you, and next to it or on the other side, something else which is open, and that's the beauty of life. We will always be taken to where we must arrive. That's what I've learned. There are no wrong routes. There are no misdirected efforts. Everything is happening exactly the way it is meant to be. The master plan has no flaws. So we've had a great conversation. We'll do a quick wrap, and please stay on for the wrap too. But quickly, the quiz questions. Your quiz question and Vetri's quiz question. Very quick, sharp. We're out of time. So what's your quiz question?
Okay. 80 years ago, there was one chocolate which was introduced to the world. Okay. And now, after more than 80 years, you have the fourth chocolate, which is not genetically modified, which is into the market. It was launched on It was launched to the world on the 5th of September 2017. Would anyone here know which chocolate it is?
Cadbury Silk.
Illa.
Five-star? Kit Kat?
Pardon me?
5-star?
No, it's not any brand. It's not a brand. How many of you all know that there are 3 varieties of chocolates? I'll give you a clue. There is a dark chocolate,
White chocolate.
white, and milk chocolate. Okay? So, white chocolate was introduced 80 years ago by Nestle. Now, after more than 80 years, you have the 4th variety, which is introduced by a company called Barry Callebaut. Okay? This was last year. It's not yet available around the world. It's very, very limited quantity that is available. Anyone here know which one it is?
Okay,
Any clue, please?
you can go ahead and answer the question and move to your next one.
It's called Ruby. It's pink in color. It has cocoa.
Okay.
Okay, and it's going to be available in about 6 months across the world.
Okay, fantastic. Good learning there. So your first question went unanswered. Do you want me to ask a second question on that, which is on behalf of him, so that we save time? So this is an easy one. Which edition of Bliss Catcher is this? You win a mug.
44th.
Huh?
44th.
Yes, Sati, come forward. Okay, I just invented that question at the same time. Okay. Quickly, Vetri, your question.
தெருக்கூத்து தப்பாட்டம் இந்த 2 folk art forms தவிர்த்து ஏதாவது ஒரு 2 folk art forms.
மயிலாட்டம்.
மயிலாட்டம்.
ஒயிலாட்டம்.
ஒயிலாட்டம்.
கப்பை பாதியா உடைச்சுங்க.
பொய்க்கால் குதிரை கூட இருக்கு.
நீங்க வாங்கிட்டு அவருக்கு கொடுத்துருங்க. 2 பேரும் வாங்கிட்டு அவருக்கு கொடுத்துருங்க நீங்க.
யார் கொடுத்துரு இவருக்கா?
இல்ல இவருக்கு ரமேஷ்க்கு. We short on mark.
Okay,
So you received it. So that's it. Right. You received it already.
No thanks.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you so much. Wonderful conversation there. Quick wrap. But before that, we'll give away the trophies and the mugs for the guests as well. So here's your coveted Bliss Catcher trophy. Okay, welcome to the Bliss Catcher family. And this is your mug for all the hard work for today. And this is yours, Srinath. Okay, I was thinking of how I'm going to close this one, but one of the thoughts that came to my mind came again from Rumi, which is, Rumi has said this very beautifully. He says that I want to sing like the birds sing. I want to sing like the birds sing, not worrying about who hears or what they think. So there is a big connection between what Rumi said and what these 2 gentlemen are doing, which is they are being themselves. They are enjoying the journey. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, there are upheavals. And they are really not, if Srinath, for example, had paused to think about what is the world going to think of me if I fail at my chocolate house? What is the world going to think of me if I were to go out and say that I have given up the idea of being a singer and I'm going to follow my bliss, my heart, and do what I love doing, which is be in chocolates? He didn't think of those consequences. He sang his song. When Vetri says it is difficult, it is challenging, and I'm doing what I'm doing because I love doing it, I'm happy doing it, and the joy he receives in making that effort to preserve a traditional art form, that joy is overriding everything else for him. So both of you, in a way, epitomize Rumi's quote for me. I want to sing like the birds sing, not worrying who hears or what they think. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, let me close today's edition of Bliss Catchers. It's been fantastic. being in conversation with both of you. Thank you for being yourselves, and thank you, all of you wonderful people. I'd like to make a couple of announcements as I close the evening, which is we're starting a new series on the 12th of January, the second Saturday of January, right here at Odyssey. It's called the Happiness Conversations. This series focuses on how you can learn to be happy in life despite your circumstances. So our first guest in that series is a lady called Pranita Timothy. She was struck with a case of paralysis because of a brain tumor. 60% of the right side of her body became dysfunctional. She lost her voice. She had 2 surgeries, and yet she has fought back. She still doesn't have a voice. We will need to amplify her mic in order for her to be audible when she sits in front of you and speaks. But she is a fascinating story of faith, of resilience, and of being happy despite her circumstances. That's on 12th of January, the Happiness Conversations. Entry is free. Please spread the word. If you have left your email ID with Vani or me, you will be put on our mailing list, and we do welcome all of you. The next edition of Bliss Catchers is in January. We closed the 2018 season with this edition, and we reopen the 5th season, the 5th year, in January, on the 26th of January, Republic Day, when we have glass artist Anjali Venkat and Kriya Shakti's founder Dushyant Gunashekar. They are my guests. Interestingly, Bliss Catchers is curated all the way till 2019. We closed for the 2019 season almost. So look forward to seeing you all on 12th January and then again on 26th January. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You will pay. That's what I was thinking.